All right, I'm talking to you tonight about this circle that is closing in, and we got to get into that circle and watch each other's back and push back out. But I want to show you this because it's important that you see how well they've organized. The administration now, we kind of stopped down here at this anti-cop kind of race toxic soup that's down here. The administration now has something that they're calling a high priority, and it's to get ex-cons some work. They're spending $12 million to help ex-cons find jobs. Now, on the surface, this is actually noble. This is a good thing. It's not necessarily terrible. I'd rather have ex-cons working than roaming the streets. I want to help. If you paid your debt to society, let's help. But when you have a communist, former militant revolutionary, Van Jones, who's helping organize the convicts, and you also know that CARE is erasing every word, like radicalized Islam, every place that Islamic extremist is mentioned in every federal policing handbook, coupled with the fact that Islam is the largest growing religion in the prison system, and knowing what you know about this brand of Islam, which is also pretty popular, along with the new Black Panther parties, I'm sorry, you couple that with an administration who I believe their goal is to create chaos. Call me crazy, but this is troubling. Remember, Van Jones supported cop killer Mumia Abu-Jamal. Here he is calling into his radio program. Watch.
What we want to see at this point is the rights of the Palestinian people being respected. And at this point, the end of the occupation, the right of return for Palestinian people, these are the critical dividing lines, global dividing line questions of human rights. We have to be here.
This is Mumia Abu-Jamal saying thank you and goodbye.
Okay. All right. Now, when you see they are starting to organize the prisons, they are sending federal funds there. You see what's happening with CARE. You see what this is. This was to the prisoner, and this was an anti-Israeli message. Are you beginning to? Now let's go to the anti-cop rally. This was the latest from Occupy Wall Street this weekend. They were taunting police by hanging donuts as bait and chanting, "Here, piggy, piggy." Watch.
Hey, piggy, 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 piggy. Treat us like animals, we'll treat you like pigs. Treat us like animals, we'll treat you like pigs. Show me what a donut looks like. This is what a donut looks like. Show me what a donut looks like. This is what a donut looks like. Show me what
These guys are saints. They really are. How they put, I don't know. They're beyond what I could do. But remember, just a few months ago, they said they were pro-cops. Remember? March with us. We're here for you too. And I warned you, no, they're not. It's going to get uglier and uglier as every day goes on. As each time this thing mutates, it's going to get uglier and more violent. Because look at the people that are involved. Let's go back, starting back here this weekend with the atheist. That was a children's event? That was a family event? Can you imagine what it's going to be like down here? The protesters marched over the weekend from Zuccotti Park to Union Square to protest against police violence. Now, even the DHS has now warned against Occupy's potential for more violence. The Department of Homeland Security has issued this report, WikiLeaks made this public, warning that a growing Occupy movement has expanded the protest impact and increased the potential for violence. It talks about if you don't pay attention to them, if you let them fester, it's going to get more violent. But that brings me back to what's behind door number one. Remember? And who's behind this? The unions, the radical student groups, the anarchists. I demand an apology, quite frankly, from everybody in the media. Here's DHS saying exactly what I said. They're organized by the unions. Hello? Oh, that can't happen. Oh, yeah, that's right. And now we know the real goal of the communist-led labor unions, radical leaders in the movement, such as Ayers and Piven and Lerner, the people that you know for the last few years. It is to cause chaos, phase two, and they are encouraging it. They need it to happen in order to achieve their goals of control. And they help it by ignoring what's really going on, and the media is criminal. Meanwhile, all of this is happening, and did you even know that Obamacare is in front of the Supreme Court today? Let me be politically incorrect here and ask you to get on your knees and pray. Pray that God steps in. Do we have the, because this is really, they are organizing against you, and you will feel awfully darn alone unless you couple with God. This thing has to be repealed. Once Obamacare starts up, there's no getting rid of it, and now is the time. If we miss this window, it is over. How is President Obama handling the coming debate? Well, he's made a T-shirt, and here's what he's linked on his official Twitter account. Healthcare reform, still a BFD. This T-shirt is referring to Vice President Joe Biden's gaffe, his poetic description of the passage of Obamacare as a big effing deal. Glad to see we're all the way back here next to the F-bomb atheist with healthcare. The president raising the level of conversation in America. He's doing it in the White House with CeeLo. Remember this from, what was it, last week or the week before? He does this and then talks about tight gangsta rap albums to dropping the F-bomb. This is all very presidential, isn't it? He'd fit right in at the atheist rally. Not just because of the 75 F-bombs we showed you from one of the performers, but because Obama himself has been one of the, if not the most hostile presidents to religion in our country's history, especially Christianity. Listen to one of the atheists talk about Obama from this weekend. Listen to this.
What about President Obama?
He actually did. He's gone away from this. Before he was president, you can look this up. He did a speech on religion where he directly criticizes the Bible.
Whatever we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation.
He talks about how it endorses slavery. I mean, he talks about how it shouldn't be used as a basis for public policy.
Which passages of Scripture should guide our public policy? Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay, and that eating shellfish is an abomination?
And we shouldn't be using the Bible, basically, to establish policy or to justify policy. Sure. But he's kind of gone away from that now. He's become president because he keeps, in a lot of speeches, he's quoting the Bible.
To answer the responsibility we're given in Proverbs to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves.
He gave a shout out in his inauguration to non-believers. We are a nation of non-believers. And he had to swear in office twice because Roberts messed it up the first time. He and Roberts messed up the oath the first time. He had to have it redone. And when Roberts came to do it the second time in the White House, he didn't use a Bible. I love that he didn't use a Bible. Like, I hate that one.
He went on to make the point, here in the White House, they have a library. You can't find a Bible in the White House? And he just laughed. Gang, if your friends aren't getting the picture that chaos is only going to increase and that we are dealing with somebody who is not what they say they are, I don't know what it's going to take. Tiffany, can you get that audio ready for me again? That video that we played right at the top of the show with Medvedev. The reports now that Russia has moved huge numbers of troops last week from Chechnya to Dagestan. That is about half the number of the Russian forces stationed in Chechnya moved. Where? Towards the Mediterranean Sea. It seems a bit much for routine coverage for terrorism activity. What's the real motivation? We'll have more on this later this week. We also now have TIPS. They're Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. These are, when the world says they don't trust anything, they go to Treasury bonds, U.S. Treasuries. But when the world says, I don't even trust that because inflation is coming, you buy TIPS. So many people are rushing into TIPS now. They are selling at a negative interest rate. In other words, people will go, and the big deal in 2008 where people were buying bonds so fast that they were taking 0% interest, which meant all they wanted was their money back. I don't trust this whole system. I just want my money back. People are so panicked now that they're willing to say, here, take my money and I'll just take part of it back. This is bad. Meanwhile, your friends are out doing what? Investing in treasuries with an inverted yield. In the UK, try this on for size, over the weekend a gold bar was found half filled with tungsten. Is there anything you can trust that is real today? This bar, when they weighed it, it wasn't right. This is the government's stash. It wasn't right. They cut it in half. Somebody had filled it with lead. How many gold bars in our Bronx, in our Fort Knox, in the Fed Reserve, how many have been filled with lead, and who's doing it? Can you name anything you trust today? I can. Right here. These are the two things that are under attack, you and God. On May 17th, I'm asking for a national day of fasting and prayer to beg for God's protection. We'll have more details on this as it draws closer. But I need you to reach out to everybody you can. I want to leave you this monologue with this one thought. Again, here's a man who says one thing and creates something else. Is it a coincidence that the atheists are organizing for the first time, that we have a community organizer in office? Is it a coincidence that he says one thing and does another? And here's what he said to the Russian president to tell Vladimir Putin when he said, look, I'm having a hard time getting the missile shield thing done. Just give me some time. Watch this and learn.
This is my last election. Yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah. I understand.